District Attorney Nathan Hochman is asking a judge not to pay out thousands of sex abuse claims against LA County. The county agreed to pay $4.8 billion to resolve thousands of claims of sex abuse in county-run juvenile facilities. Hochman says as many as 81% of those claims are fraudulent, but an attorney for the alleged victims tells us Hochman is overstepping. The payments will be paused until July 25th while the case continues.
Well, District Attorney Nathan Hochman is joining us now to discuss these paused settlements as well as a number of other issues affecting the county. DA Hochman, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Great to be on. Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with this case because it is a complicated one for people who don't understand all the details of it. There are thousands of claims. The LA Times saying as many as 11,000 claims. You are saying you want the payment held up because you believe some of these, the majority of them, you say are fraudulent. Now, I know the LA Times did their own investigation. They found, I think, 9 people who they say were paid to sue. How do you get to a number that says the majority of these are fraudulent?
So what happened is that these claims are called AB 218 claims after a state law that got passed in 2019. What that state law allowed is that child sex abuse survivors who had been abused often decades ago, even going back to the 1960s, 70s, 80s, or 2000s, had a window to file their lawsuits starting in 2020. What ended up happening against LA County that used to run children's homes, group homes, foster homes, is that over 10,000 lawsuits got filed against LA County as part of the opportunity to file these lawsuits. LA County resolved those lawsuits for $4 billion, but that money has not been paid out yet.
Right.
In late 2025, the LA Times came out with this article, and we began an extensive criminal investigation looking at a variety of databases to determine whether or not any of these child abuse sex survivors who claim to have been at these various facilities actually were there at the time they claimed. We then went through an enormous analysis so far over the last 8 months, and we determined that up to 81% of these individuals who have filed these lawsuits have fraud indicators. Now, the money has not gone out yet. So we went into court and we said to the judge, look, we need about 6 more months to finish this case. If we determine there are legitimate sex abuse survivors, we'll let you know they can get paid. But as for the significant, and we're talking hundreds of millions or billions of dollars that might go out to the fraudsters, we asked the court to not let that money go out in the first place. Let us do our job to bring these criminal cases. And if and when we do bring them, those fraudsters should not receive a dime. They should otherwise go to legitimate sex abuse survivors.
DA Hochman, the judge in this case, said this is, quote, one of the most remarkable things he has seen in his legal career because this move basically pits you against the county's own lawyers. They believe the payment should go forward as planned. They were scheduled to hit plaintiffs' bank accounts next week. So why the last-minute pause?
So we waited to make sure our investigation was at the point that I could come into court and say up to 81% of these claims, these 10,800 claims, have fraud indicators. We're not opposed to the county because the county didn't have access to the databases that the DA's office does. But we're not going to go ahead and stay silent when we have the potential ripping off of up to billions of dollars against this county in favor of fraudsters and against basically the legitimate child sex survivors who should get that money. And we're also looking at the attorneys. We're looking at the medical professionals and the recruiters that would have led to these fraudulent claims. This will be an enormous case, and this is one of the largest settlement in U.S. history.
Okay, 2 more questions on this. So that would still leave, if you find that there is fraud in all the cases that you believe there are fraud, that would still leave hundreds of legitimate victims. So what do you say to them who've been waiting most of their lives for these payments, who now have to wait a few more months? And you keep saying fraud indicators. What exactly are those?
So a fraud indicator is an indication that someone was not even at the facility at the time that they claimed they were there and sexually abused. Those would be the variety of fraud indicators. They come from databases that the DA's office has access to, but no one outside of certainly in the public, would have access to. As far as what I would say to the victims, I said, look, we have asked the plaintiff's attorneys to get us the information to clear people. If anyone is suffering a hardship, we ask that the attorneys get us that information immediately so we can go through the analysis and hopefully clear them and they'll get their money. But as for the thousands upon thousands of people who've been trying to rip off the system, we say to them, get ready. because what they'll find instead of a paycheck is potentially a prison door.
All right, DA Hochman. Right now, we want to move on to another story we know you and your office have been involved in lately. It's been about 2 weeks since the DEA raided LA's MacArthur Park. Now, we've been keeping an eye on that neighborhood, and since then, the Citizen app has shown dozens of 911 calls for knife fights, drug users needing aid, assaults, and other crimes. Can you explain to us the strategy to address crime and safety and when we could see improvements?
So there's a 4-point strategy to go ahead and deal with MacArthur Park, which used to be one of the iconic landmarks of Los Angeles, effectively our Central Park on the outskirts of the skyline of downtown LA, and has now turned into more MacArthur Morgue. So here is the strategy. First, go after the gangs that have been controlling that park for a decade. Second, go after the large-scale drug dealers who've been supplying the drugs, fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine, to the people in the park. Third, go into the park. Deal with all the individuals who are engaged in the low-level drug deals, deal with the illegal hard drug users, and do it on a consistent basis so that people know that the police are not just going to be there one day or 1 week, but it's going to happen week after week after week. And the fourth part is this. We'll work with all the city organizations. We'll work with the Department of Sanitation, Parks and Recreation. We'll work with the mayor, the city council people, anyone who want to be part of the solution in order to, and I've made a promise, on Labor Day this year, Labor Day weekend, we will be out. I've promised that I will bring my family for a picnic. I have invited everyone to join us for that picnic because we are going to work incredibly hard to make MacArthur Park safe enough for everyone to enjoy.
All right, I'm sure we'll enjoy that once it is nice and safe, so we'll continue to follow the progress there. And thank you so much for being with us this morning, DA Hochman.
Thank you very much as well.